everybody, how are you doing? I hope you are doing well. I'm very pleased to start today's video in which I'll be introducing the future continuous, the future perfect, and the future perfect continuous. In the previous video, if you remember, I introduced the future simple and the future with the big win too. So after finishing this video, I'll have introduced all the tenses, okay? So in the upcoming videos, we'll introduce something else, and probably I think conditionals, okay? Conditional sentences. I'd like also to thank you for the messages that you keep sending. They are very encouraging, and I'm happy to know that what I do is of some help to you. I'm sorry if your messages and questions go unnoticed and unanswered. I try to answer all the questions, but sometimes maybe I misread some of your questions. So I'm sorry for that if your message or your question went unnoticed and unanswered. Now, before I start, let me share my screen with you. And as you know, the first thing we start with when we talk about tenses is the use or the usage of a certain tense. When or in what cases do we use this or that tense? Now, for the case of the future continuous, we use the future continuous to express an activity that will be in progress at a specific time in the future. All right. So as you know, all continuous tenses, whether we are talking about the present continuous or the past continuous or the future continuous, all of them indicate that the action is progressive, okay? The action is progressive or continuous. It has a certain duration, okay? It lasts from a certain time to or until a certain time, okay? Now, let's have a look at this illustration here. This is the form of the tense. We use subjects plus will be plus present participle. And I guess you remember what I mean by present participle. It is the verb plus ing. I told you in the previous video that we have four forms of the verb. We have the infinitive, the simple past, the past participle, and the present participle. For example, to go in the infinitive, went in the past, gone in the past participle, and going in the present participle. So in the continuous tenses, we are concerned with the present participle, okay? That's what we are concerned with. Now look at this arrow here. This arrow, if you see, indicates that the action is ongoing or the activity is ongoing, okay? In the future. For example, it will start at this point here and ends at this point. So there is a certain duration, right? The action is continuous from this point of time in the future to this point of time, okay? For example, I'll be fishing tomorrow. I'll be fishing tomorrow. So the action of fishing will start here and continues, okay, up until here, right? So we say, I'll be fishing tomorrow. Ein will be singing later. So the action of singing will start at this point and continues up until this point here. So there is a certain duration at a specific time in the future. Now that's how we use the future continuous. Let's read these examples here. Tomorrow at 5, I'll be watching my favorite TV show. So what is this tomorrow at 5? This tomorrow at 5 is the point of time in the future during which the action will be in progress, right? It's very important to use such kind of time expressions to indicate the point of time in the future during which an action will be progressive or continuous. This time next week, I'll be traveling to London. This time next week. Suppose, for example, that this time now is 7 p.m., okay, or 7 a.m. So at 7 a.m. next week, I'll be traveling to London. So here I made it very specific, the point of time during which the action will be progressive, here in this case, the action of traveling, I made it very specific, which is this time next week. For example, 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. next week, I'll be traveling to London. Dave will be running his 10th marathon next Sunday afternoon. So next Sunday afternoon is the point of time during which the action of running will be taking place. Is that clear? All right. Sometimes there is little or no difference between the future continuous and the simple future, especially when the future event will occur at an indefinite time in the future, as in the examples that I'm going to read here. What do I mean by especially if the future event will occur at an indefinite time? If the future event will take place at an unspecified time, indefinite time, then whether you use the simple future or the future continuous, it doesn't make any difference in the meaning. For example, don't get impatient. She will be coming soon. So here, as you see, I used the future continuous. Don't get impatient. She will be coming soon. And this soon here doesn't tell us exactly when, okay? Is it this afternoon? Is it tomorrow morning? Is it tomorrow at 5 p.m.? So we don't know. It's just soon. It's a little bit vague when it comes to the timing. So in this case, we can use either the future continuous or the simple future and say, don't get impatient. She will come soon. So either she will be coming soon or she will come soon because the time is indefinite, okay? All right. Now the form is like this, subjects plus will plus be plus present participle, right? This is the affirmative or the positive form. My sister will be singing in the concert tomorrow evening. So tomorrow evening is the point of time during which the action of singing will be progressive, okay? In the negative form, subject plus will plus not. So in the negative form, we just add not to indicate negation. Plus be plus present participle. Chris will not be studying at the library tonight. Chris will not be studying at the library tonight. Question or interrogative form, will plus subject plus be plus present participle. Will you be waiting for me when I arrive in Paris? Will you be waiting for me when I arrive in Paris? Yes, I will. No, I won't. So as you see, we start with will, not with the subjects here, okay? But of course, these forms need to be practiced, okay? You need to practice a lot. Try to make sentences in the affirmative using the future continuous. Try to use also negative sentences and question sentences to practice more. And here I have exercises for you to do, right? And to practice the future continuous. For example, what will you be doing next Christmas? So give examples. What will you be doing this time tomorrow? Okay. What will you be doing next New Year's Eve? What will you be doing this time on Monday? What will you be doing in 10 years' time? What will you be doing this time on Saturday? Now, all of these questions are simply meant to give you the chance to practice the use and the form of the future continuous. And I hope that you will give at least one example for each of these questions, okay? In the second exercise, you choose either the simple future or the future continuous depending on the context, okay? For example, here, I think we have an easy life in the future. So, which is correct? To say, I think we'll be having an easy life in the future, or I think we'll have an easy life in the future. If you go back to the previous video, you will see that we use the future simple when we make predictions that are not based on any evidence. So in this case, I think we will have an easy life in the future is the correct one. Why? Because the person speaking here is making a prediction that is based on his personal belief or opinion, okay? He has no evidence that we will have an easy life in the future. He just thinks. So in this case, we use will, okay, the simple future, right? So try to read the sentences carefully and the context, okay, the context, if you understand the context of the sentence, it will be very helpful um, for you to decide whether to use the future continuous or the future simple, right? And here I have the famous speech of Martin Luther King. Of course, this is one of the most famous speeches in the history of the world, which is I have a dream, I have a dream. In this speech, Martin Luther King used the future continuous a lot, okay? So read it and see how the future continuous is used in this very famous speech, okay? It's also an opportunity for you to read this speech if you have never done so. All right. Now the future perfect. When or in what cases do we use the future perfect? The future perfect tense is used to describe an action that will have been completed at some point in the future. It is often used with a time expression which identifies that point in the future. Okay? At this point, I think the definition is not very clear, but if we take a look at the illustration here, we'll get what the definition means. Okay? So suppose that suppose that this is that certain or that specific point of time in the future before which the action will be completed. For example, John will have gone by then. So this is then, right? So this then here, this point of time is in the future. So the action of going will take place before it, okay? So John will have gone before this point of time in the future. So the future perfect, we use it to talk about a completed action before a certain time, a certain specific time in the future. This example here is better because we have a very specific time, which is 9 o'clock. I'll have eaten before 9 o'clock. So this is 9 o'clock, okay, in the future. I'll have completed eating here, here, before 9 o'clock, which is at the tip of this arrow, right? Okay. I'll have graduated from university by 2023. So suppose that this is 2023 here, 2023. At the tip of this arrow is 2023. When I say I'll have graduated, it means that I'll finish my studies before 2023, okay? When 2023 arrives, I'll have completed my studies. I'll have graduated, okay? The action of studying will have been completed. Is that clear? So this is how we use the future perfect. And as I said, in the perfect tenses, we use the past participle of the verb, okay? Not the present participle. The present participle, we use it in the continuous tenses, and the past participle, we use it in the perfect tenses. Examples: by the time you arrive, which is here, okay? Always go back to this illustration here and look at the tip of the arrow. So by the time you arrive, this is the time you arrive, we'll have finished the meal and the speeches. We'll have finished them here before the time you arrive, okay? So the action of finishing the meal and the speeches will have been completed before you arrive, okay? Before this point of time in the future here. So by the time you arrive identifies the point of time in the future, yes. Another example, I'll have read every magazine in the waiting room before I see the dentist, okay? Suppose that I see the dentist at this point here. This is the point in which I'll see, or at which I'll see the dentist. So before that point, I'll have completed reading. I'll have read every magazine on the table in the waiting room, right? Before the dentist comes. So remember, it is a tense that we use to talk about a completed action before a certain time, before a certain specific time in the future, okay? Now the form. In the affirmative, we have subject plus will plus have plus past participle. For example, by tomorrow evening, I'll have completed reading this novel. By tomorrow evening, I'll have completed reading this novel. Negative, subject plus will plus not plus have plus past participle. I'll not have tidied everything in the house when she comes. I'll not have tidied everything in the house when she comes. Question, will plus subject plus have plus past participle. Will you have finished the report when I call you tomorrow? Will you have finished the report when I call you tomorrow? Yes, I will. No, I won't, okay? So of course, as I say, you need to practice these three different forms, okay? Try to come up with sentences in the affirmative, negative, and question forms using the future perfect tense, okay? And of course, I'll send you exercises to practice, like here. So in this exercise here, choose the correct answer. Sunday is the first day of our trip. We will be traveling, or we will have traveled all day. So choose the correct tense. Is it the future continuous or the future perfect? Scuba diving gear is expensive. Luckily, by this summer, I'll be buying, or I'll have bought everything I need. So choose the correct tense, okay? Of course, the context will help you, right? If you understand the meaning and the context of the sentence, you'll find it easy to decide on the tense to use, right? In this exercise here, the future of travel, so you read the sentences and you decide which tense to use. Choose the correct verbs to complete the sentences. Use the future continuous or the future perfect here, okay? Of course, using the verbs between parentheses. You have verbs between parentheses that you need to conjugate in the blanks, either in the future continuous or in the future perfect, depending on the context. And of course, I will send you the key later on, okay? In this exercise here, what will life be like in year 2100? Complete the sentences using the future perfect. Now here, in this exercise here, you use just the future perfect, okay? Conjugate the verbs between parentheses in the future perfect. Now this is a good exercise for you to practice the use of the future perfect. Use will have plus past participle form. The same thing here. Use just the future perfect in all the sentences here. It's a good exercise for you to practice, okay? Now the future perfect continuous. Future perfect continuous. We use the future perfect continuous tense to talk about an ongoing action that will be completed at some specific time in the future, right? Now this tense, which is the future perfect continuous, is similar to the future perfect in use, except that this one, we use it to talk about a progressive action that will be completed before a certain time in the future, okay? Look at this illustration again here. So the form is subjects plus will have been, okay? Subjects plus will have been plus present participle. Will have been plus present participle. For example, Sarah will have been talking for an hour by 8 o'clock. Okay, this is 8 o'clock, right? Here, okay, at this point exactly is 8 o'clock. And this period of time from here to here is 1 hour. This is the time or the progressive time during which Sarah was talking. So the action of talking lasted for 1 hour, right? And it stopped or finished before 8 o'clock. So this is 8 o'clock in the future, of course. So when I say Sarah will have been talking for an hour by 8 o'clock, I mean this. I mean that Sarah started um, at 7 o'clock, okay? And the action not started, we are talking here about the future, I'm sorry. We're talking about the future. Sarah will start talking at 7 o'clock and will finish at 8 o'clock, before 8 o'clock. So it's 1 hour. So we say Sarah will have talked or will have been talking, Sarah will have been talking for 1 hour before 8 o'clock, right? Let's consider the second example. By the end of the race, this is the end of the race, I'll have been running for 6 weeks, okay? By the end of the race, I'll have been running for 6 weeks, okay? So the action of running was continuous during 6 weeks. So from here to here is 6 weeks, right? Of course, you cannot run for 6 weeks non-stop, but here we mean that the action of running was repeated, from time to time during these 6 weeks. More examples. In July next year, you will have been studying for 3 years at this institution, for example. In July next year, you will have been studying for 3 years at this institution. You will have completed 3 years. You will have completed studying for 3 years at this institution. Okay, so the action of studying will be continuous, okay, for a certain time, and will be completed before a certain time, which is before July next year. I'll have been playing poker. Poker is a card game. I'll have been playing poker for 30 years by then. So by then, I'll have been playing for 30 years. That's the total amount of time I'll have been playing poker. So by then is the specified time, okay? By then is this here, okay? This illustration will help you. The form, we have subjects plus will plus have plus been plus present participle, okay? Negative subjects plus will plus not plus have plus been plus present participle. Present participle, I repeat again, is the verb plus ing. Question, will plus subject plus have plus been plus present participle, okay? And you can go back to the examples that I gave you before a while. And here you have more sentences for practice. Conjugate the verbs using the future perfect continuous. You have like 17 sentences to do it. All right. So I came to the end of this video. I hope that the illustrations and the explanation was clear. The discussion will continue on Google Classroom. I hope I'll receive your questions if you don't understand something in the video. And of course, I'll share the materials that I showed you in the videos. I share them as downloadable documents. And of course, I encourage you to do a lot of practice, and I wish you good luck, right? So this is it. Thank you very much for your attention, and take good care. Goodbye.